Hi everyone, please subscribe to the channel, and if you do, you can also click on the little bell button icon, and if so, then whenever I post a video you'll be notified at that time. Thank you. In the most recent video that I posted, which is a collaboration with Nath is an excellent tarot card reader. He's also a scholar and a teacher of that art. And we discussed political operatives in the Democratic Party, one of whom was Kamala Harris. We talked about that earlier in the video. I thought I would address her chart here because I recall, first of all, the tragic election loss. I voted for Kamala, and I was dismayed to see her loss in November. And from the astrology, I immediately knew that the astrological cause was the Saturn energy in her chart because of a number of Virgo planets that she has, which Saturn was opposing. Saturn was at the time in the 10th sign, which is a risky place for Saturn to be. There are cases where Saturn in the 10th in transit can be the pinnacle of a person's achievement, a person's career, etc. And in just as many or more, Saturn in that place becomes a denial of the objective, as it was, for example, in the case of Al Gore, Kevin McCarthy, and a much more dire example and a lot more nefarious, Hitler himself totally crashed and burned when Saturn entered the 10th of his chart. In any case, Kamala, at the time of her loss, did have quite a strong Jupiter transit in the sense that it was near her ascendant, not quite to the degrees of her ascendant, but close, which can often be enough, although in this case, counteracted by Saturn up in the 10th sign, it was not. However, Jupiter then retrograded, and around February it went direct, and now it's back to where it was, or rather a little forward of where it was at election time. And what is important here from the perspective of her profile is that Jupiter is about to cross her ascendant in the next 10, 12 days. It crosses right over those degrees, and essentially May, especially mid to late May, becomes a very special time for her. And this dovetails with the fact that many people believe that she may make some kind of comeback onto the political scene. In particular, there have been projections, visions of her even returning to the presidency due to the fact that there may have been malfeasance with the voting last year, that it would be discovered and she would be thereby reinstated or made president at this time. I will admit, number one, that I would love to see that happen, and certainly that fits with the Jupiter, transiting Jupiter energy through her ascendant. There's no question that such a thing, if it's going to happen, you would see something like a Jupiter crossing that line, because Jupiter there is very helpful. Indeed, it was in that region when Bill Clinton was elected in 1992 and Barack Obama in his 08, in his very spectacular 08 victory. So Jupiter on the ascendant is wonderful. At the same time, you have to realize that Jupiter on the ascendant doesn't have to take that route necessarily. It can take other routes. And one counterpoint in her chart that immediately introduces a question mark is that her Jupiter at her birth is in the 12th house, 12th sign. And so it is very possible that the crossing through that line might just mean background work that she's doing, especially through donors or anything to do with money, because Jupiter's in Taurus. Taurus is a money sign. Since I would be very surprised if she didn't continue her political career objectives, and in part this is due to the Saturn still being around the 10th sign. Saturn is slow enough that it doesn't really exit her 10th until next spring, and even the next sign is still a very career-oriented political sign, which is Aries, which is her 11th. It still works really, really well. So the point being that, yes, the Jupiter could be something miraculous almost, or it could be something different, but it nevertheless will signify progress. And because she's so public, we'll probably find out. The media somewhere will cover it, and we'll see what it is. There's also the fact that because the American chart features a late Aquarius moon, and Uranus continues to roam around those degrees in a square, and it's doing so now into a little past the solstice and into the summer period. And Uranus, when connected to an important country's planet, can signify some shocking event, something unusual. Indeed, last year in the summer period, I remember tying the Uranus activity of Biden passing the torch to her, and then the change in enthusiasm and so forth. All of that was Uranus late in Taurus squaring the American moon, but it's going to do it again. These outer planets, they go forward, they go backward, and they aspect the planet more than once. So that is another thing to add to this. And then the final thing I'll say is that in my estimation, even though I would be, as I say, extremely happy to see an outcome like that, I have to say that I'm assuming it's not going to happen, just because separately I understand the political system in this country to be such that it makes things like that very unlikely. You would need, ironclad, evidence or something that would be 1,000% irrefutable. Otherwise, for example, if we switch gears to bring up the chart of the president again, and the distinct possibility with the level of health pressure that is in that chart, and let's say that for some reason he became disabled in some manner, whatever that is, and he couldn't continue, then the system is set up so that it would be J.D. Vance that would take over. It's not set up to put the other party in charge or anything like that. So my sense of this is that the Jupiter on her ascendant is most likely to manifest itself through something that for sure will be good for her, and she is a very viable candidate for 2028 because of where Jupiter is then, because Jupiter then will be in Libra, and she's a Libra. If you have Jupiter in your sign or on the ascendant, also you could add the zenith is quite good for that as well, important points in the chart, then you immediately increase your chances of winning a big prize. Although, of course, you'll typically contend with other people who may have similar aspects, and so then only one of them can win in the case of the presidency or whatever it is that you are competing for. And of course, there's also the fact that it has been mentioned she's weighing her chances and her desire to possibly become governor of California, because Gavin Newsom will no longer be governor after 2026 because he can't run. His term ends and he's at the limit. Of course, you have to think that if she decides that may either signal that she doesn't want to, or doesn't believe she wants to be president, or that maybe she would leave the governorship. I'm not sure, but that's one of the things that it has been rumored that she's weighing. And beyond that, we'll simply have to see. I would say that already by next month, I'll have more information around this by what appears in the news. But I will say that this is her best chance in terms of the timing for something big from where the Jupiter is. Jupiter going into Cancer next, it's okay. It's not particularly great for her in regard to it being a super significant pattern that way. So this is it. This is the moment, and let's see what happens, bottom line.